There's a lot going on in this movie.
It was like I was watching it for the first time.
I like this movie.
It has a special place in my heart.
Very close to my heart.
This was a good one.
I want to like this movie.
What? Seriously?
I loved it.
Very flat, kind of boring.
This movie blows me away. This movie turns me on.
Terrible. It is terrible. All these keys everywhere. Influences, baby.
Huge, huge fan.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Hello and greetings and welcome, and we are back. Oh my gosh, it's been months and months and months, and feels like it. And we are so excited to be back. Season 7 of Johnny Has the Keys. In case you didn't know what you clicked on or found or whatever, this is a podcast. Yes, this is a podcast and YouTube channel where two guys get together. We talk about movies, horror and science fiction specific genre movies, key influences that the movie took from other sources, and then things that it in turn influenced on down the line, whether it's a novel or another film or a sequel or something that inspired us into something else. We do deep dives and analysis and rambles. We are unscripted, and we have enjoyed this. We've been doing this for a few seasons now. If you're new to us, thank you so much for finding us and for listening to us. We'd love to know what you think at the end of the episode. Leave us a comment down below. Click, like, subscribe, do all those things that you're supposed to do. If you are rejoining us, we're glad you're back. We're excited to be kicking off a new season of 40 different episodes, many more movies than that. And my name is David. I'm here with my good, great friend, Tim. Tim, it's been months. What have you been doing this summer?
Oh, wow. I've been promoted to good, great film. A good, great friend. Wow.
A good, great friend.
Well, you're my good, great friend too, David.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's fun. I'm glad we're back. I've been itching to get back to this. So
your brain is full, and now you've got to digest
Yeah, my brain is full. And actually, it's ironic because we always start with a genre week topic. And instead of having some current new horror movie, I, of course, went back to the old days. And I watched an old Val Newton, Jacques Tourneur film called I Walked with a Zombie.
Did you? And it should be your epitaph, like on your tombstone or whatever.
But I mean, it's no surprise that it's a zombie movie. I mean, I'm always watching zombie movies. This one is a classic zombie movie, though, not a flesh-eating zombie movie, but one of those like sugar plantations in Haiti type zombies that we've mentioned before. This is the same team, as I mentioned, Turner and Luton, who did Cat People.
Yeah.
So think beautifully shot movies in black and white with lots of shadows. Yep. It was written by Kurt Siodmak. I can't say his name. Siodmak. You may remember that name, though, because he also wrote The Wolfman, 1941's Lon Chaney Jr. film. Great Universal movie.
Yes.
This movie has a decent B-movie cast. It stars James Ellison, Frances D., who is Joel McCrae's wife, and Tom Conway, who was Dr. Judd in Cat People. The synopsis is a young Canadian nurse, Betsy, comes to the West Indies to care for Jessica, the wife of a plantation owner, Paul Holland. Jessica seems to be suffering from some kind of mental paralysis as a result of fever. When she falls in love with Paul, Betsy determines to cure Jessica, even if she needs a voodoo ceremony to do so. This movie is good. It is not Cat People. It is not what I would call a great film. It's a beautifully shot film. It gets 85% of Rotten Tomato with 41 reviews. I would probably knock it down to about a 75 because it's just not as good as Cat People, which ranks 92%, by the way. It's exactly what you would expect, though, from this duo. So I don't know that I would put it on our list to cover, though. Not unless we were just needing one from that time period, from the 40s, because we do try to do things from certain decades and mix it up. But yeah, that's what I did in my genre week.
Wow. All right. I'd never even heard of it, so that's interesting, and maybe
Really?
one that I would eventually add to the list or eventually watch or whatever. I broke down totally and did something that I said, no, David, don't be your negative Nancy sort of guy. Watch this and give it a chance
Oh
and
no.
don't be so closed-minded about it. And
Oh no.
I was proven right. Anyway, last year, a movie came out, and I think I remember covering it in one of our Coming to Get Yous, our other little shorts that we do on the YouTube channel, and mentioned that I had no inclination whatsoever to watch it just because of the trailer and how bad it looked and what I heard about it. But I finally broke down and said, I'll do it this week. And I watched a little film by Zack Snyder
Oh no.
called Rebel Moon. And this is a part one, folks. So, and I may make some of you, I know that Snyder has a rabid fan base. I still am unsure why. After his two initial efforts, I mean, after you and I have talked, and
Mhm.
most people who are fans of the show know how I feel about Zack Snyder. I think 300 is great, cool visuals, nice story, everything else. I think Watchmen is one of the best
It's like Watchmen was
non-Marvel.
his peak, and then he just went downhill from there.
Yeah. I was not a fan of Sucker Punch. I did not like the Justice League Zack Snyder cut. And this movie is is people who are also fans of the show know that I'm not a big Cameron fan later on. I love some of his movies. I love The Abyss and I like Terminator and everything. But lately he's just been retreading stories like Unobtainium and stealing plots from everything else. This is, and I finally found a review that was similar and I've added to it. But the description of Rebel Moon is Star Wars meets John Carter meets Avatar meets Dune meets Guardians of the Galaxy paired with a little bit of what is it? What
Galaxy
is
of
it?
Terror.
No, Lord of the Rings and Black Panther.
Wow. But he's just stealing from big movies.
Yes, you know how we watch movies and there's an homage to another movie and they almost do a wink, wink, nudge, nudge humorous thing about
Yeah.
it,
It's
or
intentional.
they just modify it in a way that they know they got the idea from something else. They used a
Hmm.
key somewhere else. This is not that at all. He is treating this like it's the gospel, the most original story he's ever done. And every 3 minutes, there's a reference literally stolen from another film or novel or something. It's terrible. The characters in it are forgettable. They don't matter. You don't care. There's so much lack of plot and reasoning in it that it came close to being one of those films that I almost turned off. It is lavish, huge, lots of CGI, and lots of his typical, I'm going to go into a fight scene and then suddenly go into slow motion for 4 seconds, a la Matrix-y, again, inspired by something else. And then I'm just going to continue with the blow. So lots of that, but it just does not hold together at
How would you
all.
want to know what it got on Rotten Tomatoes? I just looked.
A million? I don't know.
21%.
And that's bad, right? Because
Oh,
I
that's
don't Rotten
very
Tomatoes.
bad.
Okay.
I mean, it's not
that
even
is-
certified fresh, and like it's, I think, unless it's above 70.
Well,
So,
that is
I mean, I
probably
wouldn't watch
some.
anything in the 20s. Ugh.
Yeah, that's probably some high praise for it, actually, because it is really, really not good. Hopefully, it can. I don't want to say derail Zack Snyder because I think he used to be really good and has a unique visual style. Then go back to that and recreate that or do something similar
I
to
think you
that.
could compare him to John Carpenter, only Carpenter had a
Ooh.
few more better movies. John Carpenter all of a sudden hit a peak and then just dropped, and it's just gone down ever since.
Yeah.
And it's the
Yeah,
same
that's-
with Snyder. Exact same,
that's-
except John Carpenter was a better director to begin with.
I think so. Better
Mhm.
instincts. What was it? The zombie thing he did. That was
The Dawn of the
terrible.
Dead remake, and a lot of people love that. But
Not that
it's-
one. No, the set in the prison one. Las
Oh,
Vegas.
yeah, I
They
can't remember. It's got Bautista in it. Bautista.
Yeah, Dave Bautista, and it was them doing a bank raid in a zombie horde
It's so
sort of thing.
forgettable. It's where they
Yeah.
go into Las Vegas, and yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Guys out there listening, tell us what title we've repressed because it was so bad.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's how good it is. We can't even remember the name of it. And it
but
was made for
yes,
like Netflix. I don't think it even went to theaters. I think it was made for cable or made for streaming.
and I've got a segue because his niche is he wants to be a Robert Rodriguez because Robert Rodriguez has done multi genres as well, and he's attempted a bunch of different things. Tarantino has attempted different things, but he mostly has his same vocabulary. That's a defining Tarantino movie. Rodriguez doesn't. He's very varied. I mean, you can go from Desperado to Spy Kids, but there are still some niches that he fits into. And I think that's what Snyder wants to be, but he can't. I think he ruined the DC as far as everything he did was all these dark, horrible Superman, Batman stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, who cares?
But anyway,
Really.
that's what I did.
I've got a better segue for you. You were just saying that he steals from films blatantly,
Mhm.
but that others pay homage to them. And that's exactly what our topic is doing today. It is paying
True.
homage to movies of yesteryear in loving, lush color and exploitation. We are covering a movie called Grindhouse. This movie came out in 2007. It is it's our first movie of the season. It is
Yeah.
an unofficial double feature. David and I
Yeah.
usually do 3 double features a piece during a season. This one ended up being a double feature unintentionally because it was made to look like a double feature.
Yeah.
What? Well, before let me do a brief synopsis, and then I'll ask you a question. It is a double feature homage to exploitation cinema directed by Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, not in that order. It consists of 2 films, Planet Terror and Death Proof. Death Proof follows a group of survivors battling zombies after a biochemical outbreak.
No, Planet Terror does.
I'm sorry, you're right. Planet Terror is the zombie one. Sorry. Death Proof centers on a psychotic stuntman who uses his car as a weapon against young, pretty women. The films are intertwined with fake trailers and presented in a style that's reminiscent of 1970s Grindhouse cinema, complete with intentional flaws like scratches and missing reels. The movie celebrates the gritty, low-budget aesthetic. And over the top violence, I would say, would be another good way to explain it. But for folks out there that are unfamiliar with the word, what does the word Grindhouse mean to you, David?
Grindhouse to me is the place, not so much the films. I think the films aren't. I don't necessarily think you can classify Grindhouse as a genre. I mean, to me, the closest would be, okay, that's a drive-in movie. That would be a genre that I think most people would equate with it. To me, the Grindhouse was that's the Alamo Draft House in Dallas or in Austin. It's a theater that's running almost 24 hours a day, showing everything. They'll show anything. They ended up being a lot of exploitation because that's what they could get cheap and make money off of.
Right.
So all of these, whether it's a second run or even first run, but done in somebody's basement with his girlfriend because she has big boobs, movies that it became known for. But for me, the Grindhouse was the cinema house that was a drive-in.
Well, I agree that it would be like the movies you would see at a drive-in, especially a second feature. And I agree with you that it's the place. And we just didn't have them growing up in small towns. But if you lived in a city like Los Angeles, it was the seedy cinema, probably in the bad part of town, that just showed B movies or worse. Another thing I associate it with, and this is me personally, because I'm a pervert, I guess, but I associate the word grind with sex. So it also makes me think of a place that would show X-rated movies as well.
I think easily these places came about in the I think they were second run theaters that were probably built in the 40s and 50s. In the 60s, they became these grindhouses that went through the 70s because with the advent of cheaper cameras and cheaper film and everything else in the late 60s, early 70s, you could make more independent, low budget movies. So that became really popular in the 70s. But then with the X happening, I think they easily descended into X-rated theater.
Well, and then when video came in the 80s, they almost disappeared altogether. They basically just evaporated because people could watch them at home.
Yep. You don't want to be known going to a grindhouse in the
Well, Tarantino does. He tells his favorite one in one of the things I read.
Yeah, but basically because of what you said, a lot of times it's total exploitation. It's a lot of guns, a lot of blood, a lot of boobs, a lot of sex, a lot of semi-decadence without really getting decadent. This doesn't go to like snuff film territory. This is more of the, we know we're watching a movie, popcorn movies, bubblegum, however you want to call it. This is to cinema what bubblegum pop is to the the record industry. And we didn't have one, but we did have drive-ins that showed,
we did, yes.
You got to see this type of movie.
Like Zombie or Frogs.
Yeah.
Or, movies that we talk about lovingly, even though they're terrible.
All the Billy Jack movies.
Walking Tall.
Walking Tall.
Gator. I mean, Gator had Burt Reynolds in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously, based on some of the research I did for this and everything else, that both of them really wanted to highlight this genre. And I really, really commend them not only for doing the two separate movies, but all the interstitials or all the trailers and the promos and the little graphics.
That's what I was going to get to next, is that not only is this a double feature, they also conceived of many ideas for trailers that they were going to direct. So Rodriguez first made the Machete trailer with Danny Trejo is in
Danny
it.
Trejo.
Tarantino loved it so much that he showed it to his friends Eli Roth and Edgar Wright, who immediately said, "Oh my God, we want to make one too." So he was like, "Well, okay, you guys can make one, and if it's good enough, we'll put it in there." And so all of a sudden they had like a fake trailer before, I think, the first film. They had a couple of trailers in between the two movies, or maybe even three, I think, in between the two movies. So it feels like you are at a double feature in a seedy grindhouse watching trailers that are seedy as well as the films.
The aesthetic from the very beginning to the very end, credits and music and everything, is 1972 in a grindhouse theater or in a theater.
I disagree with you slightly.
Okay.
And the reason is and I didn't realize that this was just the second time I've seen this film, but about a third of the way into the Tarantino film, they stopped scratching the film and making it look old. And it bothers me because it looks too pretty. And I'm like, why did they stop? They should have kept doing it.
Agreed. But then they go back to it in the final fight, ties it back in with the scratchy and the shutter cuts and everything.
Yeah. It was almost like Tarantino was like, "Oh, don't destroy my beautiful film."
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. I think I have a list. So the trailers, Machete, Don't, which is like
Edgar
their
Wright.
take on foreign films or foreign.
And the reason you know it's
that.
Edgar Wright is Nick Frost is in it, the guy that he did Shaun of the Dead with and several other films.
Werewolf Women of the SS,
which is Zombie.
Which was great, and Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was Eli Roth. And then somehow Rob Zombie ended up in it too.
So Thanksgiving and Machete were turned into real movies, right?
More than Thanksgiving and Machete. I think there were three that Thanksgiving came out.
A movie.
Thanksgiving just came out last Thanksgiving. Right. You know what? I'll get to it later because I don't want to get lost in my notes, and I have a lot of notes for this film. So, but I'll find it. But I think three have been made into movies.
Yeah, but I think that whole feel and those graphics, I so remember those graphics and that music of coming soon or our feature presentation sort of thing. And like my background, it's that weird,
Weird
spinny
colors,
graphic.
like psychedelic. Yeah, it's very strange. It's
You
very
know, those,
familiar. And did you notice they misspelled previews in one of them? They spell it
yeah.
Prevues.
And all
Yeah.
of the missing reel, sorry, apologies from the management. Those graphics are great. When I first started at the Capitol and we would do our pre-show trailer slides and everything else, I put in that old concessions animation that you always, let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Okay, I know what the third movie is, and the reason I didn't remember it is because the trailer was not in the version we saw. The original
Oh, okay.
theatrical release
Hmm.
included a trailer that won the XSXW Grindhouse fake trailer competition, and it was a Canadian film, I believe, called Hobo with a Shotgun, and they turned that into a movie with Rutger Hauer.
Okay, then.
So Hobo with a Shotgun, which, like I said, we have not seen, but it was a trailer in the original theatrical release. Machete has been turned
Mhm.
into two films, Machete and Machete Kills. And then Thanksgiving was recently turned into a film by Roth. And I've got in my notes somewhere that Rob Zombie was so psyched that he made like a 30-minute trailer and they had to chop it down. And he was told that if this movie was successful, Grindhouse, that they would do a second Grindhouse movie and that it would be Thanksgiving and Werewolf Women of the
Wolf Women of the
SS.
SS.
Yeah. And this movie did not do well,
Oh,
probably because it
no.
was, I mean, there's no way it's going to do well. It's too long. And I mean, I love it, but it's not what the average American movie going person would go see. And it's
Well, I
just a
also
love
think when
letter.
it came out, it's virtually impossible to market.
Right.
I mean, this
Right.
came out in what, 2007?
Mm-hmm.
And most people were not Grindhouse fans at the time. They wouldn't know what to
Yeah,
even
I'm
call
shocked.
it.
This movie is 17 years old, and this is just the second viewing. The only time I'd ever seen it was in the theater. So I should have gone back and watched it sooner because I love Planet Terror. I think I love both films for what they are because we have talked about how much and you too, but me more, love bad movies and that how Steve Roy and I would go out of our way to watch movies like Basket Case or Demons or Galaxy of Terror.
You call
Yeah.
them matinee stinkers.
Yes. And it's like Tarantino and Rodriguez, two very good filmmakers, decided to get together and make exactly one of those movies. And that's why I love it, because not only is it that kind of movie, it's shot beautifully and just really cool looking. So anyway, I guess we should probably move on to.
Well, I mean, I don't want us to get away from the overall aesthetic and how they approach it, and the fact that we'll probably talk about. I don't know if we'll necessarily be able to separate these that much. We
It's
can,
hard.
but you've got to see the overall experience of it. And I totally agree with you. I mean, I had never seen this before. I'd never seen this movie at all, and it was an effort to find it. I finally found it on Prime, but you can find them separated because I think what you didn't say at the beginning was
No.
their marketing plan was they released it and then they cut them both apart and released them separately again.
And they
right?
added footage to make them
And
longer.
added footage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because some trailers that I saw, I was going, that shot wasn't in the freaking movie. I didn't see that shot
Mm-hmm.
in the movie. I guess because that trailer was for the extended cut, the separate cuts.
I wonder if with the separate releases they left the grittiness and the scratchiness on the film stock and stuff, or if they released them clean. I haven't
don't know.
watched them, so I don't know. I would have to go check one out, I guess. And they are available on some streaming platforms, I'm pretty sure.
But I think the I don't know. I'd have to see them, but I had no idea the running time of this movie. I sat down to watch it, and I was like, okay. I was at the end of Planet Terror, and I thought, oh, okay. And the trailer came on. I watched it. And I thought, okay, now we start Bulletproof. I got like half an hour left, and went, oh no, I've got almost 2 hours left. What?
It was.
What?
It's like 3 hours and 15 minutes. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way too freaking long. It's way too.
But when you think about it, the movies themselves are not. I mean, they're both just a little over an hour. Because, I mean, like an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes is 2.5 hours, and then 30 minutes of trailers or whatever. No, I guess it's
There's
not that
not
much.
30 minutes of trailer. It's like 15 minutes of trailer. They're each about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
They're almost a feature film.
But
anyway.
not by today's standard. Today's standard, movies are way too long. But yeah, I agree with you. It was longer.
Tell it to Chris Nolan.
What I wanted to do, David, is I was secretly wanting to sneak in another double feature.
There you go. Yeah, of course.
No, but I did want to cover this in its original concept.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yes. And it's great. And obviously two auteurs, which I think that word is appropriate for both of them, that really appreciate what they're doing and love what they're doing. Like you said, they both look great. I agree with you. I think I've even got in my notes. I think Rodriguez, he understood the assignment. I do not think Tarantino understood the assignment.
I totally agree, because that's another reason why I get mad at Tarantino for not doing the film stock the way that, I mean, it was so clear that Planet Terror was much more rough looking than Death Proof. Death Proof looked too pretty in places to me.
Yeah, especially with Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Yeah, they were making him the Burt Reynolds of the piece, but yeah, for sure.
But I noticed it specifically because it's the scene where he approaches Butterfly and they show that intense close-up of him. And from then on, there's no scratches in the film. There's no shutter stocks. There's no jump cuts. There's no anything like...
There's just a missing reel, and that's it, I think.
Which is the dance.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, which I love. Both of those gimmicks, I mean, are great. Right when it gets to the really, really sexy stuff, we're missing that reel.
Right.
Or in Planet Terror, it actually burns through the film, which is great too.
Yeah, you just made me think of something. Whenever we do a double feature, I always have two separate sets of notes for each film. And like you said, this one runs together, and I did all my notes together. So I wish I had done the pictures behind me one and one. I should have just done one from each feature instead of, because the ones behind me are just from Planet Terror. But that being said, what scenes? And I say just shout out scenes from any of the two.
Well, there'll be a lot of scenes from Planet Terror because I preferred it. I thought it was a much better film, and I thought it was a better feeling. The image that comes to mind first is Cherry on that motorcycle coming up over in slow motion and shooting the rocket out of her leg. Because, it's such an absurd visual, but at that point in the script, you're actually rooting for her. And in the movie, you're going, yeah, go, Cherry.
Oh, my God. I went and saw this with a friend of mine that's no longer with us. And he went because he knew it was a scary movie that I would like. And I just don't think he understood. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, he may have fallen asleep. And I am just giggling maniacally through the whole thing. But yeah, that scene that you mentioned, that just popped into my head, like, one of the things that Rodriguez did that I think was an A+ as far as the assignment is to give this crazy zombie film this weird subplot of this mean doctor played by Josh Brolin. It's like out of the blue, and I mean, not even really should be in this movie, but it is. And that scene where he's examining that guy that's been infected and he sticks out his tongue.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just his tongue with like all these ulcerations and pus and shit.
Well, in great writing, even though I don't know the character's name at all, I remember his other doctor friend who was always talking about the horrible diseases.
That had like porno on in the background. Oh, no. It was other, like,
It was testicular cancer
Yeah, it
and
was
all
like
kinds of stuff.
it was body parts that were like rotting off people. He was like
Yeah.
thumbing through them on a computer, which is another thing that's funny. Is this movie looks like they're set in the 70s, and yet occasionally you'll see a cell phone
Yeah, or you'll see a modern car on the highway in Death Proof. Yeah.
or a computer.
Yeah.
Which any inconsistency just adds to the deliciousness of it, though.
Oh, yeah. But like that supporting character the whole time when they start getting the infections in, he's going, oh, that looks like a so-and-so abscess of blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just a great character.
Yeah.
Brolin, yeah, the two scenes with him that stick out to me. The first one is just because it's a scene is the guy getting all the pus off his face and rubbing it literally in his face and mouth and eye and everything.
And that shot down the hall against the wall. And he's like, you can tell he's trying to not let it get in his mouth. He's like using his tongue, but it's such a great shot the way he held that and all the chaos is going on in the background. Yeah.
And you know instantly, oh, Doc's infected now. That's not going to rub off. That's going to leave a mark or whatever. Yeah. And then the needle scene. Oh my gosh, when she's trying to defend herself and he's stabbing her with the needle repeatedly. It's like, oh my gosh.
I've got a key to that. I'll get to that later. One of the things that I thought was really funny too was in the first one with the telephone conversation. Because James Brolin is on the telephone, I think, with his wife or somebody. But then you've also got Ray making his jail. He's in jail making his phone call, and they're all cut to where you don't know who's talking to who, and it's just chaotic. There's like 4 people on the phone, and you have no idea who's talking to who. Mm-hmm. It's very strange. But it was intentional, I'm sure, on Rodriguez's part.
Rose McGowan has a very nice love scene, so that worked for me too.
She does. Well, I wonder if it's a body double in some, like right before the reel cuts, and that was another one was going to be one of my favorites. That first missing reel is when she's like naked on all fours on the bed.
And the whole film burns through the center, and then it goes missing reel. And I was going, yeah, sure.
Of course, the sex scene's missing.
There's a projectionist somewhere who stole that whole reel. But and then I guess my last one from Planet is his decision to not show the boy shoot himself. Every other gunshot in this movie has the biggest squib splatters I have ever seen in anything. It's awesome. And yes, I will go ahead on record and say, good job, Mr. Nicotero, because he did all the makeup. And it is very good. You know, Savini's severed finger. And they show, there's probably dozens and dozens of gunshots in this movie. Yet she gives the gun to the little boy and says, be careful with it, blah, blah. She walks away. It's that shot of the car in the background, her in the foreground, and the whole car goes... And she goes turning back, and we see him. He does not skimp on it. We see him with a blown away skull, but we didn't see him shoot himself. I thought that was a really cool decision because it really made us feel for her, and it wasn't splattery.
And then she's like carrying around his dead body like she's going to reanimate it.
Yeah. Which I thought she might, because it is Return of the Living Dead. I thought something's going to happen. So. Yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned that, and we haven't got to keys yet. Return of the Living Dead is the only chemically induced zombie film I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, there's probably some B movies, but this is like a whole new genre, man. I want to see another movie that's like chemically induced zombies, because these zombies are repellent. I mean, they are like undulating pustules and just gross, man. And they are melting. And
which goes to my thing. Would you call them infected instead of zombies?
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, zombies is just one of those things that sticks because they're after you and they're going to bite you or infect you or whatever. But
always.
I have one scene that stands out to me in the Tarantino film. I mean, he's an exquisite filmmaker, but the one scene that I think really is memorable is the head-on collision scene.
Yeah. In triplicate.
Yeah, he like shows it from every angle you can see it from.
Well, you can see it from each of the victims' perspective. What happens
Yeah.
to all four of them? Yeah.
For those of you out there that don't know, and I probably should find pictures from that when I'm doing it, but it basically Kurt Russell passes this car full of women, flies past, turns around in the road, turns his headlights off, and they're coming and they can't see that he's up there. And then he's revving the car. And then right when they're getting close, he turns on his headlights and just floors it. And they head on collide, and people are flying through windshields, legs are being ripped off. I mean, it is just, it's amazing how he filmed this. I mean, and that's why he showed probably every camera angle he had of it, just like a B movie guy would.
That one in Bulletproof, I would say
death proof, not bulletproof.
Death proof. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that earlier. Death proof. Well, I'll tell you about that in a second. Where that idea came from
is that particular scene of him finally doing his kill of the girls. Just the single shot of Kim in the foreground, and I get the impression that they dressed her as a cheerleader, not that she was a cheerleader. She was passed out, and she's on the chair, and the guy is standing over her, but you're only seeing him from the shoulders down, and the car's in the background, and they're going, bye-bye, say hello to your new friend, da-da-da, we'll be back.
Yeah, they make her the bait so that they can take the car for a joyride, for sure.
Yeah. But
back to the title of the movie, Tarantino came up with that when he was talking about a friend, or talking with a friend about buying a car. He wanted a Volvo because he said he didn't want to die in some accident like Pulp Fiction, his own movie. And his friend said, take any car you want, give it to a stunt team, and they can death proof it for you. And that's basically what Stuntman Mike is, the Kurt Russell character. He has a car that is death proof. So if you're the driver of that car, you can be in a head-on collision and you won't die.
Right.
So he can basically just murderously taunt and terrify people with his car, which is, I mean, he's basically a serial killer, and the car is his weapon.
I would have preferred seeing more of that rather than the interminable dialogue sequences that he had in that.
Well, and that's Tarantino's signature, of course.
Yeah, but normally they're witty, they're unique, they're different. This one did not have that. It had people literally for 5 or 6 minutes saying, do you want to? Hell fucking yeah, I want to. You sure you want to? Yeah, I fucking want to. It's like, that's not clever. That's not interesting. That's Rosario, who's it? Who's it?
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, I love her. Yeah.
Screaming.
She's in that picture right there. She's Ashoka in Star Wars world on Disney right now.
Yes. No, the one I'm thinking about is the other one then. Who's the other girl that plays Kim?
That girl?
Anyway,
I don't know her
the
name.
Entire time.
When we get to cast, by the way, my cast is 3 pages long. I'm not going to talk that much about them, but I will point out some things about a few of them. But
sure.
Because there are some people in the Tarantino one that I did not recognize. And there's one mainly in the Planet Terror that we don't know, and it's because it's Robert Rodriguez's son.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to get to cast? We might as well.
Sure, we're right here. Normally right now we would segue to cast and Tim will tell me everything about them.
Well, not a lot, because there are so many people in this movie because Tarantino and Rodriguez were putting all their friends in it.
Yeah. And I'm sure, and also the cast list includes all the people from the trailers. And you had all kinds of cameos in the trailers.
Yeah.
I remember seeing, because I was thinking when I saw, again, this is a weird twisted key, but when I first saw Werewolf Women of the SS, I thought of that. What did we watch that time? Ilsa.
It's Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, I'm pretty sure.
Right. And it starred Sybil Danning.
Sybil Danning.
And she's actually in the trailer.
I can't remember if Sybil Danning's in it or not, but it sounds like she would be in it because she was a big movie actress of the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So lots of people in it. Lots of people.
So in Planet Terror, We have Freddie Rodriguez, who plays Ray. That is Robert Rodriguez's son. I didn't see where he's done a whole lot more memorable. He's adequate. He's not what I would call a leading man, but he's a great leading man in a B movie, which is what this is.
Yes.
Yeah. Josh Brolin is the evil doctor. Basically, that sums him up. The one that really surprised me that I was thrilled to see in here is another B movie actor from the 80s. Jeff Fahey plays JT, the barbecue guy.
The barbecue guy. Yeah.
At one point, they find him passed out on the floor of his building with like guts all over him, and they think he's been eaten by zombies, and he sits up. And it's his barbecue because something like fell on him and it was like sausages.
Yep.
That's hilarious. Michael Biehn is in this movie. You mentioned Terminator earlier.
He's in both movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He plays Sheriff Haig. Let's see. Bruce Willis is in this movie.
Yeah.
He is Muldoon. He is the military, the ominous military guy that's introduced in the very beginning and the very end of Planet Terror, as is Naveen Andrews. Naveen
Andrews is awesome. As soon as I saw him, I was going, where? And it took me like the third scene to remember Sense8, because that's what I really remember him.
Is he in Sense8? He's in Lost.
Yeah. He started in Lost, but he's in Sense8 too.
I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen Sense8, and I love that show. But he is definitely in Lost. I remembered that.
Yeah, that was his big coming out movie or series. Yeah.
But what's funny is, just to add to the ridiculousness of these movies, because they really don't have to make sense, Naveen Andrews is clearly a villain in the beginning of this, but he's like a hero at the end. Yeah. He's like trying to resolve things that he set in motion when he released the virus.
And has an incredible head pop. I mean, it's awesome.
He literally looks around the building and his head gets blown off. Man.
Blown off into pieces.
Yeah, yes. It's like it rivals the Tom Savini head explosion in Dawn of the Dead. No, the one.
Oh, Dawn. Yeah,
that's where he busts that door down and blows that guy's head off. It was very similar. Who else? Fergie is in this movie. Fergie from Black Eyed Peas.
And I wish she had been in it a lot more.
Yeah, she's great. I love her voice. I like her as a singer, actually.
Yep.
Tom Savini, you mentioned, is in this movie. He plays the deputy, one of the deputies. Carlos Gallardo is the other deputy. I don't really know who he is. And then I've got, actually, the cast jumps around. Now I'm into the trailers. Danny Trejo, we mentioned, is in the Machete trailer. Cheech Marin is the priest in the Machete trailer.
With double shotguns.
Yep. And then you get to the Werewolf Women of the SS, and you have Udo Kier playing evil Nazi. Udo Kier, for those of you out there that don't know, is an Andy Warhol discovery. He was in Andy Warhol's Frankenstein as well as Andy Warhol's Dracula. I have a funny note. When Udo asked Rob Zombie how he should play Franz Hess, he simply replied, "Play it like you want to win an Academy Award."
Yep.
It's because you want it overdone, obviously. Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob's wife, plays Eva Krupp, who is one of the SS women, along with Sybil Danning, who we just mentioned.
Yep.
And if you blink, you'll miss two other veterans of Rob Zombie movies. Tom Towles plays Lieutenant Borman. He also played Henry Cooper in the remake of Night of the Living Dead. As well as Bill Moseley, who we all know from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He plays Dr. Henrik von Strasser. Moving on from, I'll get back to trailers, I'm sure, but getting into Death Proof.
Nicolas Cage is in Werewolf 2.
He's at the very end.
Manchu.
Yeah, it's Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
See, Rob Zombie understood the assignment.
Yes, very much so. And great. I mean, it's a nice little trailer. Great costuming. I love it being in a pseudo black and white look until that last Fu Manchu thing. That was
Yeah,
really
and
good.
it's snowing and it looks like a concentration camp. Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks great.
yeah.
It looks
It looks
great.
great.
The second feature, Death Proof, stars Kurt Russell, obviously, as
Yeah.
stuntman Mike, the serial killer with a car. Several other people were up for this role. Do you want to venture a guess?
Sure. No, I don't want to
Okay.
venture, but
Willem Dafoe, John
see that.
Malkovich,
Could see that.
yeah, Mickey Rourke,
I definitely could see that.
yeah, Sly Stallone. Don't
No, could
want to
not
see that. John Travolta, don't really want to see that either.
Not for Mike. No.
And Ving Rhames. So these are all people that have worked with Tarantino pretty much.
Obviously. Yeah.
But what happened was they were considered, and then Kurt Russell said, "Hey, I'll do it," and it was like, "Okay, you win." Yeah, and I don't blame him. I think it's great to say. And then I guess they became friends as a result because he went on to do The Hateful Eight with Tarantino later.
Much better movie. Anyway, but wait, before we do Death Proof, you didn't do Josh or the girls in Planet Terror.
Well, that's because the cast list jumps around based on how popular they are, but or based on I don't know. I did mention the doctor, Josh Brolin.
Yeah, Josh Brolin plays the doctor, and it's a great part for him. He's really good in that menacing pre-Thanos.
Right. No, yeah, and I've got a note about something else that happened on the set. But yeah, the cast list just jumps around. I'll get to it.
Oh, okay. When you get to it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
You get to you.
Okay. Zoe Bell plays
Zoe Bell.
She plays Zoe Bell herself. She is like an incredible stunt woman from New Zealand, and she does some incredible stunt work in this movie where she is basically on the hood of the car the whole time during a car chase. She is surprised. I mean, she's made herself known as a great actress too. I think she's wonderful in this, and I absolutely adore that scene where they think she's dead because she went flying off the car, and they're just sitting there in the car crying, and she just pops up and goes, "I'm okay."
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things of that whole film.
Yeah,
I watched it like 3 times. I'm okay.
And then goes over there. That was some exciting shit, wasn't it?
There's 2 sets of girls in Death Proof. There's the 4 that get killed.
That'd be my big question. Why? Really annoys me.
I think it's because it made it in the movie too long. But the reason they did it is they wanted to set up the fact that he's a killer. So they kill the first 4, and then he meets his match in the second 4 because they're all from the movie industry, and 2 of them are stunt people.
Right. I would have done that in 7 minutes at the beginning of the movie rather than waste 4 scenes in the bars and everything else before we even get to them dying.
Agreed.
And then spent the rest of the time with the second girls.
I totally agree, but we're dealing with Quentin Tarantino here.
Yes,
and Quentin Tarantino is known for 2 things. Well, he's known for a lot of things. He's known for dialogue, but I would say the words that come to my mind are excessive and indulgent. And,
agreed.
But the thing is he's also loved for those 2 things. And I think it got away from him in this.
Well, mostly because, again, and I go back to my original thing of, and I'm sorry to interrupt the casting, but I go back to my original thing of I don't think he understood the assignment unless he was saying Robert's movie is the action, gore, sex, incredible thing that you find at grindhouses. Mine is what you sometimes get, which is a lot of dialogue, and then they throw in stock footage of a car chase. And I thought if that was his point, he didn't make it well enough. If that wasn't his point, he didn't understand the assignment, because we're reinvested in these 2 groups of girls that we get to know them so well that we care about them, and then we're not supposed to care about them. We're supposed to instantly align with these new group of girls. And all of the car chases go on way too freaking long.
I have to admit, though, I'm obviously a horror movie guy and would be attracted to the Grindhouse horror movie aspects. He's going for a different demographic, I think, of a movie I never really watched, like White Lightning or Bullet or one of those type movies where maybe they did do that stuff. I'm just not familiar with it.
But he has shown in all of his films that he could do that and make us like really eccentric characters.
Mm-hmm.
From Pulp Fiction on, his dialogue, his characterizations, everything. He could do that. That's not in any of these 8 women that we meet, or even in Stuntman Mike, because we don't know enough about his creepy side, other than the couple of creeps he get, like you should be sitting on this side, boom, and slam her into the thing. And
I disagree with you there. I think it's fun to set him up as the nice guy at the bar drinking the virgin pina colada.
Yeah, agree with that.
But then when they leave, he asks her, do you want to go right or left? And then he tells her why she chose wrong and that she's going to die. And it's instant. It's like, oh my God, man, this guy's a psycho.
Yeah. I need more of that. I need less of the cafe, the diner scene where Zoe Bell is talking about being in a trough.
It's frivolous dialogue. Yeah.
And more of suddenly now Mike's back because he's watching them on binoculars after we've done 20 minutes of just the girls. Anyway, I just say that because I think he could have made these characters with his dialogue and his ability to create very eccentric characters, like in Hateful Eight or Hollywood, any of those. He could have done it, and he didn't, I don't think. I remember Cherry Darling more than I remember Julia, the radio bitch.
That's because Rose McGowan is a fucking movie star. I don't know why she has not done more, because she looks like a movie star. Of course, I think Rosario Dawson does too. But okay, so the 4 girls that survive, there's 4 girls that die and 4 girls that survive in Death Proof. The 4 girls that actually, there's 5 girls that die. But anyway, the 4 that survive are Zoe Bell, Rosario Dawson, Sidney Poitier, which I love. That's Sidney Poitier's daughter.
She doesn't survive. She dies.
Jungle Julia? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. She is the one. Never mind. Sorry. They've got them mixed up in here too. I'm confusing her with Tracy Toms. Tracy Toms plays Kim. She's the second stuntman along with Zoe Bell. And then there's Rosario Dawson. And who is the other one?
The girl that plays Jill, I think.
Oh, yeah, the one that played Lee. And she's the one that doesn't go with them because she's dressed up like the cheerleader and never leaves the farm because she's the bait. And do you recognize her?
She looked awfully familiar to me, but I couldn't place from where.
She should, because we covered a great movie with her in it. She is in 10 Cloverfield Lane. She is the girl from that movie.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah, her name is Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She played Lee.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 survivors. Then we got the 4 ones that get killed. Vanessa Ferlito played Butterfly. I like her. I don't really know her from anything. Sidney Poitier's daughter.
She's really good.
Right. It's so funny because when it said Sidney Poitier, I was like, he's not in this movie. And then I realized, it's her daughter.
The same thing.
His daughter.
It's his daughter. It's his daughter.
He played Jungle Julia, the radio
DJ.
show host or whatever. And then Jordan Ladd was in it. She is Cheryl Ladd's daughter. Looks just like her in the face. I was like, wow. And then Marcy Harriel played Marcy in Death Proof.
Yeah.
And then also doing dual roles in both films is Rose McGowan, and she plays Pam in Death Proof, and she's the one that gets a ride home, Kurt Russell, and is the one that we realize he is a killer when she gets in the car with him.
Yeah. And she plays Cherry Darling in Planet Terror.
And she plays Cherry Darling, the stripper. No, go-go dancer. Let me correct myself.
Go-go dancer, Tim.
In Planet Terror. All right, since we're on Rose McGowan, I got to read this because I found this fascinating. Okay. After the sexual assault accusations against Harvey Weinstein went public in 2017.
Because she was the whistleblower, right? Wasn't she the first one?
I don't know, but she was one for sure.
I'm pretty sure she was the first one, or if not the first one, she was the most.
She wasn't the first because of this. Rodriguez revealed that Rose McGowan had confided to him that Weinstein had assaulted her as well. She had signed a non-disclosure agreement about it and had subsequently been blacklisted from any films that Weinstein produced. Rodriguez said he cast McGowan to get even with Harvey Weinstein, knowing that his brother Bob, who ran Dimension Films, knew nothing about it, and that Harvey couldn't object without revealing himself. So Rodriguez went out of his way to put Rose McGowan in this movie as like a vengeance thing.
Good.
So I thought that was cool. But now, subsequently, after all the stuff came out, I'm sure Rose McGowan came forward. But apparently she was under something that was preventing her from doing it. And that's another reason why I guess she didn't get good roles. Because she's great in Scream. She's great in this. She's been good in everything I've seen her in.
She's a witch. So, yeah.
Is she? Is she in one of those movies too?
She's in the series. She's in the sisters, with the witch sisters, the three of them. Charmed, yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that. Okay.
She's good in that. You'd probably like that. She's good in that.
Quentin Tarantino is in this movie. He is in both segments. He's a very memorable segment of Planet Terror when he's going to rape Rose McGowan, and when he lowers his pants, you see a shot from behind him where his genitalia is melting off.
Yes. Yep.
Which I thought was pretty good.
Well, he's also doing that with a part of a table leg stuck through his eye.
Yes. Yes, that's
so,
true.
Yeah, there's that.
Eli Roth not only directed one of the fake trailers, he is in the Death Proof movie. Mm-hmm. He is one of the guys that's like in the bar or the diner or wherever it is they're hitting on the girls. Who else? I'm not going to name all these people because there's too many. Another person that's prominent in both is Michael Parks. He is he's an old school actor, and he's one of those actors you knew Tarantino would pull out of retirement to do a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember him from, because I think he's almost playing the same character as Kilmer.
He is. That he's playing a sheriff.
Yeah, and it's that kind of sheriff. God damn, I don't know what's going on.
The first time we see him, he's feeding his wife, who is clearly like paralyzed or an invalid, and he's like, God damn. She farted, and you don't know it because you don't hear it. You just see his reaction to the smell.
Yeah,
it's great. He plays Texas Ranger Earl McGraw in both Planet Terror and Death Proof. He has also played the same character in Kill Bill Volume 1 and Dusk Till Dawn. And that's why he seems familiar to you. And from what I understand, his son plays the deputy next to him. There's more than one deputy eventually, but his son is in those scenes like where they're walking down the hall talking together and stuff too. His name is James Parks, and he plays Edgar McGraw. Marley Shelton, this is one of the girls from Death Proof that I had not mentioned earlier. She plays Josh Brolin's wife. I love
Dakota.
her. Yeah,
she's
Dakota.
Awesome.
She's great. I don't really know her from a lot, but and I'll just go ahead and reveal this key. She is the one that gets stabbed in the hands by the syringe, and her hands go numb, and she can't do anything when she's trying to escape and like open a car door. And it's exactly the same thing as the Tim Conway skit on Carol Burnett's show when he's the dentist.
I had that in my keys.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that one shot when it cuts to her and she's like this. She just got her little hands up like that, and she can't do anything.
No.
She struck me as like a less comedic, more scream queeny Anna Faris. Is how she
does look a lot like Anna Faris now that you mention it. Yeah.
And at first, I think the first two scenes, I thought, is that Anna? You know, when they're in the kitchen and everything, I thought, is that Anna Faris? And then I went, no, it's not. I don't recognize her at all.
No. So, and I didn't look to see what all she was in. Folks, I'm not kidding when I say this cast list is 3 pages long. So I couldn't go into everybody. If I did, we'd be here for hours. So, but anyway, she's great. The babysitter twins are Electra Stone and Elise Avalon. I guess she's married. Maybe she has a different last name.
Okay.
So, but I thought it was hilarious that they had some like hot babysitter twins. And they're in both movies too, aren't they? Yeah, they make an appearance in Death Proof too, somewhere, like in the diner.
Oh, yeah, they're in the jail cell. They're in the jail cell.
That's right. That's right.
They've been captured by Bruce Willis's guys.
No, that's in Planet Terror. I'm talking about, I think they show up in Death Proof too.
Oh, okay.
I think they're like in the diner or something, like in the background. You mentioned Nicolas Cage is in this movie. He agreed to play Fu Manchu in Werewolf Women of the SS for free as a favor to Rob Zombie, his friend. One person you may not know is in it because it's only his voice is Will Arnett does the voice for Don't, the trailer narration.
Okay.
Where basically they just keep saying the word don't over and over again. Nick Frost, I mentioned, is in the trailer for Don't. He is listed as Baby Eater.
What a great part.
If you blink, you'll miss him, but he's in the basement and he's chained up and there's like I think a mattress on the floor and he's got like either a baby or a baby doll. They call him Baby Eater. And then Jake Garber played Gas Pump Zombie. I think that's it. That's all I have. Did I miss anybody?
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
As far as awards, the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Saturn Awards nominated this for Best Horror Film, Best Supporting Actress, Rose McGowan, and Makeup. But it did not win. It won an award for Best Overall Stunt by a Woman in the World Stunt Awards. I'll let you guess who that is.
Zoe?
Zoe won an award for this movie. Yeah, she did. Lots of small circuit wins and nominations, but it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list because it doesn't belong there. It's a great film to me. I don't know that, like I said, it was one of those that didn't hit well because only its demographic is very small. There's not a lot of people out there like me. You know that, David.
It's true. You are a castle an island unto yourself. Yes. I've got just some watch notes from it. So one of my first comments is capital love, the scratches, burns in the film stock, the shudders, all of that is great. And like you said, it was a shame that they took it out of the last half of Death Proof. I've got the makeup budget for this must have been huge. Great makeup, good work. My notes, the way my watch notes go, it says, okay, do I really need to question how the hell she's firing this leg weapon? It's like the whole movie has been so preposterous, and David immediately lights on. How is she firing this gun?
I thought it too. I mean, not only does it fire whenever she aims it, she also shoots rockets out of it.
Yeah, and she never reloads it.
And how did Ray have time to make it for her?
Right. All of that makes no lot. But then again, so there you go. I mean, I liked it. And I thought, I agree with you. I think she should have been nominated for that award. I think she is awesome in both of these roles.
I have
her with her little arms doing this thing as she's walking really fast with the gun.
You know, that was another question I had was I wonder how she did some of that. Or I mean, some of it's got to be CGI, but it looks like she is really walking on a table leg for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure how they did that. It was really good. Yeah. The table leg and the gun when she's walking with the gun and everything.
But leave it to Rodriguez to find. I mean, Rodriguez is great.
I love when he gets on the motorcycle and he goes, you get on back. And she sits on back and goes, no, the other way. And then she sits in front of him and he goes, no, the other way.
I like a couple of scenes from, it's not a scene really, it's just a line from Planet Terror when Ray says he's going to go rescue what's her name, and Michael Parks says, fine, but we're taking my car, and then it just blows up in the background.
Oh, yeah, that was Michael Biehn. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is Michael Biehn. It's not Parks.
And he goes, I'm riding with you.
And I have a note that Dakota is Dr. High Heels. She's wearing high heels as a doctor. character.
And pissed off the whole time.
Stomping down the hallway in the high heels. Man, it's funny. How'd you like when Ray flips off the wall?
Oh, yeah. That was, well, and he's double knifed the whole time, that whole hospital assault, just with 2 knives.
It was like all of a sudden Bruce Lee's in this movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I've got the music is awesome.
Yes. I like the music throughout it. I think
Yeah.
the pieces they pick are really good, even in the jukebox scenes or whatever.
And then I like when you mentioned the boy that blows his face off. Before he blows his face off, she goes to get him and tells him, we got to go. And he says, wait, my tarantula and my turtle and my scorpion.
And my scorpion.
He's trying to gather all these pets.
They can all live together.
This is some weird shit. And I've been to Morocco. Is that a Tarantino line? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Tarantino line.
That's literally a Quentin line. He says it when he's.
Oh, but it's in Planet Terror.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in Planet Terror. That's right.
My only quote, because we do that sometimes, we put quotes that we like. My only quote is actually a Tarantino quote, and I liked it a lot, and it's from Death Proof. And she's talking about his car. It's the first time she sees his car. I think it's the Rose McGowan's other character in Death Proof. And he says, well, I aim to impress. Scary tends to impress. And I thought that was a really cool line. And the way he delivered it was really good. Just that edge of, is this guy who he says he is? Mr. Virgin Pina Colada?
I was in The Virginian and these old TV shows that none of these people know.
Yeah.
And
that was a good sequence.
And Kurt Russell really was in The Virginian. He was in 2 episodes. I thought that was interesting. But the thing that blew me away about Kurt Russell in this movie is that I had no idea he had such a good John Wayne impersonation. That was a great John Wayne impersonation. Yeah. And he is not easy to do.
No. Without singing really, cliche.
Or like Rich Little or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only line I have left is when I can't remember if I don't think it's Zoe. I think it's the other stunt woman. I forgot her name. When she's driving the car toward Kurt Russell, Kim, she says, I'm going to fuck a nut up in this bitch right now.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a Tarantino line if I've ever heard one.
It's definitely a Tarantino line.
Especially having a woman say it because it's such a masculine line. I was like, that's awesome. That is great.
Yeah. I've got, just again, Tarantino not understanding the assignment in my watch notes. I've got, okay, so now, even though we had this spectacular murder crash, we now have to spend time getting invested in 4 new characters. I've got, if you're going to set your story in Lebanon, Tennessee, please don't film it in Southern California because it doesn't look like Tennessee at all. I don't understand the assault because it's like, wouldn't you just stop the car and let her get in? Even if that took 30 freaking seconds, it's okay. Right. He's going to skid around behind you, but you don't have to go for 6 minutes on the hood of this car.
It's intense, though.
It is, and it's some good stunt work. But I mean, mostly because she looks like she's unwired. I mean, I'm sure she's wired into the hood. But there are times when especially once she's gotten rid of both belts and she's literally holding on to the front hood grill. Yeah. No way she would ever be able to do that.
And you're like, every time you see Kim leave the road and go near those fence posts, you're like, holy shit, man.
Oh, yeah. And one's going to go right through you. My watch notes are so weird. This was a borrowed Charger, right? How are they ever going to pay for this?
The car?
Yeah. The white car that
they're
taking for a test drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. The punching goes on way too long. The dialogue scene is going way too long.
Oh, but I love it though, because that to me was very B-movie like Grindhouse. The way they show him getting hit in the face like 10 times from every angle.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you want to hate him so much. That's the payoff. And I'm not sure they made you hate him that much. Maybe because it's Kurt Russell. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And I like having Kurt Russell with those blue eyes and the scar as that charmer, but we don't see him as the mean guy enough. We don't see the Josh Brolin, the evil doctor in him kind of
No,
thing.
it might have been
And,
interesting to switch those roles.
well, I would have, like I said, I think he should have had two sets of kills. I think you should have done a brief little thing at the beginning and have him kill some people. And then I think you should have had a different scene with girls and there's a kill or something like the Rose McGowan. Do that sooner. And then we suddenly are afraid of him. And you can spend all the time you want with Rosario and the rest of them.
Yeah,
And
I
then when he
agree.
appears, we're scared of him. We're going, oh my God, what's he going to do?
Yeah, and in retrospect, you're making me think about the first set of girls that he kills. In a horror movie, you would endear those characters to you quickly and then kill them, like he does
Correct.
Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Yep.
Wes Craven, that is. Their dialogue goes on way too long, and that's Quentin just indulging himself. It should have been much shorter before their death.
Rosario, as good as she is, her character is the straight girl. The other two, they are the extremists. She's the straight girl who has one good scene with the redneck trying to talk him out of the car. But I liked the original four girls more, even though I didn't like them personally. I don't like Julia. I thought she was a bitch, but I liked her. I got more interested in her character. So I would have liked to have seen a hybrid of those somehow that would have made it stronger. So like you said, I care about them more and then they're killed, and or I care about them.
But I mean, Wes Craven does it masterfully in Scream, and that scene's not even 10 minutes long, maybe 10.
Nope.
And it's basically just Drew Barrymore walking around the house on the phone, and you love her. And then when she gets murdered, you feel it big time.
Yep. It's really
and
good.
You don't really get that as much with this, but you do get that incredible head-on collision. It's just great.
So that's like an anti-key. It's not Scream.
It's not Scream. Yeah, you're right. I've got some trivia. This film was set up to be a double feature, but people in 2007 aren't used to that. So people were leaving the cinema after the first movie, Planet Terror. So they had to quickly come up with a plan to stop this. And the most successful one they got was just having theater owners post employees by the doors and saying, there is a second feature. This is not over.
Wow. Okay.
I thought that was funny because people just don't get it. I mean, we know what a double feature is. Hell, we have 6 of them every time we do a season.
Yes.
But most folks don't remember double features. I mentioned I had an interesting note about Josh Brolin. I don't know if you caught this. I'm going to read it. It's off IMDb. But during filming, Josh Brolin asked Rodriguez for a video camera to shoot his audition tape for No Country for Old Men. Did you read about that?
No, I didn't. That's cool.
He ended up having his audition shot with $1 million digital camera that they were using for the picture, directed by Quentin Tarantino, and with Marley Shelton reading the part of his wife in the scene. That's Dakota, I believe. The tape was then scored and edited by Rodriguez before being sent to Joel and Ethan Coen. So he basically had a movie audition made and sent to them to audition for No Country for Old Men, which he ended up being in.
That's perfect.
The Coens' first response on viewing the tape was, "Who lit the set?" That's pretty funny. I've got to note that John Carpenter was originally going to score this movie, but something came up. Either it didn't work out or he had to drop out, and Robert Rodriguez ended up taking over the job as composer. And then lastly, the only other thing I have is a tragic note when you think about it is, did you hear about the screening they did with John Landis?
No.
John Landis, we've mentioned this before when we've talked about John Landis. He's got a shadow on his career because of an accident that happened when he filmed Twilight Zone, the movie, and the actor Vic Morrow and 2 children were killed by a helicopter, beheaded. Well, there's a scene in Planet Terror where they tilt a helicopter and start mowing down zombies with it. And I don't know if they forgot about it, but John Landis was like visibly silent and struck when that happened. And they were all like watching his reaction to it. That's just terrible. I guess Rodriguez is friends with one, or maybe Tarantino's friends with him, and he was invited to a screening. That's all the trivia I have. If we're going to move on to keys, I had a big problem with keys in this movie because there are so many in jokes and Easter eggs and stuff that aren't really keys that I was like copying and pasting stuff. And then I was like, this is not really a key. So I'm going to try to weed through them a little bit.
I actually did the same thing. I started and there were so many that was like, no, that's not a key. That's them doing a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, or an in joke, or that's part of the aesthetic. But you can't say, oh, there are other movies that use scratches on the film. Yeah, there are. That's the way movies used to be projected. But I did have some of the basics. I mean, the first one, of course, for Planet Terror is Return of the Living Dead. That whole, like you said, biological warfare zombies. I think Return was the only time I'd ever seen that prior to that.
And they still look more like dead people. They weren't really like, except for Tar Baby or Tar Man or whatever they call the one that was in the barrel.
Yeah, but I had that one. And of course I had Evil Dead 2 because Ash puts the chainsaw on his arm the same way he puts the machine gun on her leg.
Right.
But that limb is a weapon sort of trope. I think that's a key.
That's definitely a key. One that I want to put as a key it's really product placement is when she shouts to their cheerleader friend, hey, good looking, we'll be back to pick you up later. And it's Mr. Ronco, or it's Mr. Microphone, the Ronco product.
Yeah,
She doesn't say good looking, but she says, hey, we'll be back to pick you up later. And I was like, I saw that commercial so many times when I was a kid that I can still see it in my head.
Oh, yeah. You can still see the white tube socks and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And it's people driving by in a car. Yeah.
What was the Peter Jackson movie with the lawnmower? I couldn't remember it.
I get them confused.
Alive, Dead?
There's one called Dead Alive and there's one called Bad Taste. And I get them both confused, but it's probably Dead Alive.
I think Dead Alive. That's what the whole violent aesthetic of Planet Terror reminded me of.
I need to watch that again. It's been a long time.
Even like you said in the scene, he goes over the wall, he comes down, he goes and slices the guy's throat. And as he's spurting, he's going to try to get away from the spurts and stuff. It's a lot like I'm going to attack all these zombies in my house with a lawnmower that I'm holding up on its end. At the end, they turn the helicopter to chop all the zombies. So,
what are you thinking, Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah, same thing.
Or either that or Twilight Zone, the movie.
No, don't do that.
It's not really a key because it happened behind the scene. But I thought this was interesting to give the cast and crew, who were also younger, an idea of how a double feature Grindhouse movie would look. Rodriguez and Tarantino put two movies together that they chose with old trailers in between them. And those two movies were Torso from 1973 and Zombie from 1979, which I mentioned earlier.
That's Fulci, right?
They're both Italian movies. So it's funny that they picked two Italian movies. I don't know what the trailers were though. And Edgar Wright's trailer Don't is actually a send up of the Torso trailer.
Okay.
Instead of Don't, they're saying something else, not Torso, but I can't remember. I can't remember what it is, but I've seen that movie. It's been a long time ago.
Yeah. I have another question for you. So last season 6, we did a movie. Was it Ty West? It was a satanic house movie. Looked like it was, the aesthetic was the 80s.
House of the Devil.
House of the Devil. Who was that by?
That's Ty West.
Was that Ty West.
But it's
So
been a couple
that's who
seasons ago.
because I was trying to think of that and X and the
Mhm.
fact that both of those are so aesthetically perfect for recreating the genre that they want to recreate,
I
which I
totally
think
agree with that. Yeah.
both of these guys do too. They know, like we said over and over, they know the aesthetic.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I would have liked these movies separated without the whole aesthetic that they have around them with it. Not just the way the movies are done, but the trailers and the little features and the burns and the scratches and all of that.
Hmm.
So they definitely, I think, were, if they weren't influenced, then they influenced Ty, because this was 7. So they probably influenced Ty in how do you recreate a full aesthetic feel of the time.
No, I totally agree. Ty West is a master at it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the previews for Maxine. They're very short. It's like a teaser, but it is set in 1985 and it looks like 1985. Big time.
Sure it will. I still have not seen Pearl. So, and Pearl was set
you
in
need
what,
to
the
see
40s
Pearl,
or
but that's
whatever?
set in like 1930 something, I think.
Yeah.
The scene where we're introduced to the girls that survive in Death Proof, they are sitting around a table, and
Mhm.
Tarantino does a 7-minute revolving shot around them.
Mm-hmm.
That is a direct recreation of a scene he did in Reservoir Dogs. He just recreated it with the women instead.
I called it the diner scene in my notes, but yeah.
Well, is it a diner? It's a different diner. I don't think it's the same diner that we see the other 4 girls in.
No. They're in a bar.
They're in a
This
bar.
is a
Yeah,
diner.
that's a bar. Yeah.
This is a diner during the day, and that's what I mean. It's a long sequence, and it is all about falling into the ditch and telling jokes on each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yes, that's an homage. I think they homage themselves a lot in ways.
Oh, they
I
do.
mean,
They do too many Easter eggs with their past film. I've got them listed.
And I guess another key would be anything that Tom Savini worked on makeup wise. Because like I said, all of these blowing heads and arms and squibs, and I mean, there is so much. These are the most squishy squibs I have ever seen. I think historically, the title holder for most squibs is in The Godfather still, with Sonny and the machine guns, because I think it's over 300 squibs on the car and him and everything. But they look painful and awful and terrible and everything else. These, I mean, people's whole arms go, and it's like
And limbs go flying through the air. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so outrageous. It's hilarious to me.
And
Most
it's
people
great.
be like, oh,
And
that's awful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's great.
It's great. Yeah. Yeah. But Savini was really the mastermind of that, of coming up with that.
I'm sure that he was playing around with Nicotero and Eli Roth or whoever was there on the set too. Yeah.
I mean, this must have been a horror director's and horror people's fan shoot.
Yeah. Well, and then you've also got lots of like-minded individuals with Edgar Wright and Eli Roth and Rob Zombie, but because they all love these movies too. They're like, oh yeah, I want to make a trailer. Who wouldn't want to make a 10-minute little film or whatever?
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't even be 10 minutes.
Or an audition tape.
Speaking of trailers, Eli Roth says directly that the Thanksgiving trailer was a spoof on the original Halloween, and he even copped music from Creepshow to put in it. There's 2 definite pieces of music in that Thanksgiving trailer that you immediately know are from the Father's Day segment in Creepshow and from There's Something to Tide You Over.
Yep.
I was like, wow. Like I said, Easter eggs, I don't want to really talk, but I mean, like El Rey is a reference to the town they're heading to and from Dusk Till Dawn. That's not really a key.
Yeah, but again, it's an Easter egg that they throw in for themselves.
It is. Like the license plate in Death Proof is JJZ 109, which is the same one from Steve McQueen's car in Bullet. I mean, not really a key, although Bullet is a key because it is that type of movie. Does that make sense? So that's why I was struggling with this. I was like, that's not a key, but Bullet kind of is.
Well, the Dodge Charger that they're in, the white one, that's from what movie? It's not White Lightning. It might be White Lightning. But they
It's
even
Dirty
mention
Mary and Crazy Larry. I've
Dirty
got
Mary
that
Crazy
too.
Larry. Yeah.
But I mean, and that's the same type of movie. I barely remember this movie, but the hood ornament is an homage to the duck ornament used in Convoy. Do you remember that? Convoy from
Yeah.
1978.
Wow.
So I'm not sure that that's really a key. That's just like an in joke that Tarantino put in there.
They should have made Stuntman Mike's car the black Trans Am, but change out the bird on the front for the skull.
Do that. Say what?
They should have made Stuntman Mike's car the black Trans Am from Smokey.
From Smokey? That's funny. I misspoke earlier. Well, I didn't misspeak. I didn't misspoke.
Is misspake a word?
I don't know. Is it?
So.
I don't think it is. I didn't misspeak, but there's more to the Dodge Charger than just Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry. The Dodge Charger, the 69 Dodge Charger is an homage to that film I mentioned, Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry, 1974. But it's also an homage to the 1970 Dodge Challenger that was in Vanishing Point, 1971. So there's two movies with Dodge Chargers out there that are rolling around.
I think there are several.
Yeah, probably.
Actually. But yeah.
In the Machete trailer, Danny Trejo throws knives into people through the sunroof of a limousine. He does that in Desperado too. So that's basically Rodriguez recreating a scene from one of his movies.
Oh, I just looked it up while you were talking about that. Fast and the Furious uses the 1970 Dodge Charger. And one of our favorite series of all times, if you paint it orange, it becomes the one from the Dukes of Hazzard. That's a Dodge Charger as well, 69.
Oh, yeah, I don't need that as a key.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, some of these movies that we're mentioning were B-movie, Grindhouse type movies, but Dukes of Hazzard really isn't. This I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The poem that Jungle Julia recites to Butterfly is an excerpt of Stopping, and I've mentioned this in an episode last season, is Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. It is also a reference to the Bronson thriller Telephone from 1977.
Wow.
Where the poem was used as a post-hypnotic signal to activate Russian sleeper agents.
Interesting.
Is that a good movie?
It was. I honestly, I can't remember. I remember seeing it I remember thinking that Bronson was good in it.
Okay.
But that's about it.
The reason I ask is that's the kind of movie that we could technically put on our list now because it's a thriller. And I was wondering if it's any good. So I just didn't know. Okay. Like I said, I've got a bunch. In Planet Terror, in the army base, they're seen watching a trailer for a movie called Women in Cages. Did you
Women in
catch that?
Cages. Yeah, of course I did.
Starring Pam Grier. Apparently this full trailer was actually released on the special edition DVD of Jackie Brown, the Tarantino film.
Okay.
I guess that's one that Tarantino made that didn't make the cut, so they just put it in the background maybe. I don't know. Oh, and okay, maybe I don't have that many left. But I mentioned earlier that Hobo with a Shotgun was a Canadian filmmaker, but I may be wrong. I think it was when this movie Grindhouse was released in Canada. That's when you could see that trailer. Maybe he was Canadian. Maybe that's why they did it. I don't know. Anyway, that was the other one I had. I guess that's about it. I mean, there's several that we could mention, just like we mentioned earlier, some of our favorite drive-in movies like Frogs or any Z-rated B movie, whatever.
Well, and
I'm gonna go toward horror, but
there are other action-y ones that have come out there. You mentioned Bruce Lee, any of those kind of ones, the Billy Jack ones, the Walking Talls, and then also the exploitation ones. I Spit on Your Grave, and even Kill Bill to an extent is a grindhousey movie.
It's just beautiful.
It's just much better shot.
Yeah.
Yes. Most of these were shot on 16 millimeter. Last House on the Left. Again, I think that this is a grand failed experiment, I think would be my final takes on.
Well, I don't think it's failed, though. I mean, just half of it, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. Half of it's good and the other half doesn't. Do the same aesthetic, do the same feel or homages that it should be. A lot more homages to himself in Tarantino's Death Proof than there is to Grindhouse cinema,
Right.
in my opinion.
And it's ironic, two things, that we are siding more with the Robert Rodriguez film than the Tarantino, because Tarantino is the more award-winning director. But it's also fun to watch a Rodriguez film again where he's gone nuts like this, because he's now known for doing children's movies like Spy Kids,
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
And I think, but he's also got other creds. I mean, you can go back to his earlier stuff. Desperado was great. And
I love Desperado.
Yeah. And so I think he still has good works, just not as highly touted in Hollywood as Tarantino. But that makes Tarantino's even more, not embarrassing, but even more frustrating, because he knows how to do it right. And I mean, he did it with Pulp Fiction. He did it with even
Reservoir Dogs.
Well, yeah, but even Hateful Eight has more of a gritty quality than this movie did, than to me, Death Proof did.
I mean, you could take Desperado and just scratch up the film, and it would play like one of these movies too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So Robert knew what he was doing way before this film came along. Yeah.
Agreed. But I think, I mean, that's what, if you don't have any more keys, we'll wrap. And that's what we both think here at the very beginning of our 7th season, starting off with could have been, but no, definitely, I think a unique, fun, because I'd never seen it, exploration of not only cinema itself, but two great auteurs trying to do something cool and bring all their friends on board to, hey, you want to shoot a commercial?
Oh my God. Wouldn't you have loved to have been a part of it, though?
Oh,
it would have been
yeah.
a blast.
Would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Even down to Nicotero. This is pre-Walking Dead.
Oh, what? Bruce Willis is here? Oh my God.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us, kicking off the season. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you like Grindhouse? Do you not? What do you think about it? What worked? What didn't? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Please leave your comments down below. Go to Apple Music, give us some stars and some votes up and all that kind of stuff. That always helps more people find us. We also are re-examining our deep dive on our Patreon into X-Files Declassified. And
we're back in there, baby. X.
Yeah. And we have Star Trek there as well, with the dilithium chamber and the classic Trek and some other stuff. And we would love for you to support us that way. It always helps. And Tim, I guess until next time, we're
going blast off. We are going into outer space, baby. We are taking off for season 7.
Yes. With the other genre. So yeah, we look forward and hope you guys will join us and come back then and see you next episode.
All right. See you then.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Can't start the car. Johnny has the key.